Hey, before we get started with tonight's video, I just have a quick announcement. But before that, I just want to say thank you for your support, subscriptions, views. I really, really appreciate it. Um, and second, to make this really quick, is this this author gave me permission to narrate their stories. And it looks like it's going to be a series, and this is something I've been kind of wanting to do for a few weeks now. So I'm really looking forward to this. There's going to be multiple parts to this, and they're not all going to be one after another. I'll probably, upload this series just once a week or once every 2 weeks. So, yeah, stay tuned. And thank you for watching. Again, I really appreciate this. This is a lot of fun, and I hope to continue doing this. Thank you. So you want to be a monster hunter? If you're somehow reading this, then, well, I hope you aren't expecting to be a demon slayer by the end of this, because unfortunately you can't really kill a demon. But in all seriousness, and the last seriousness you'll get out of me, being a monster hunter isn't a job for your average Joe. Don't get me wrong, people have never hunted in general, and just picked up the job and done well. But most, well, they don't. You see, the most basic truth about what it takes to be a monster hunter is there's no real 100% guarantee you'll make it out alive. Most don't even make it out of their first hunt, let alone make hundreds of kills, and the ones that usually do don't retire. Unlike me, because I aim to be the first. See, monster hunting, real monster hunting, involves a lot of luck, good timing, knowledge, skill, and a boatload of prep work. But mostly luck and prep work, and not everyone can do it. Let's just get this out of the way. If you have a military background, or work as a police officer, or maybe you were the best big darn game hunter and have been hunting animals since you were a kid, that doesn't really mean squat. See, coming from a police background might snag you a few points if you're fighting, say, Wendigo. The discipline to ignore distractions and stay on point and following rules will keep you from becoming a frozen snack. But, unfortunately, being a police officer doesn't mean you'll do that, or that you'll be successful when you fight, say, a werewolf. Being a hunter in an urban environment when that stupid shapeshifter decides to make a life out in the suburbs eating cats, and occasionally noisy neighbor, isn't exactly going to be the same as being a big game hunter. Having previous experience can and will help you. Having none can also be a plus since you are more open and more creative. But regardless, only some people can really make it in this job. Which is why I always tell up-and-coming would-be hunters to specialize. You in North America? Look up texts and folklore about creepy things that go bump in the night, or keep yourself updated on whatever site you find this Hunter's Guide for Idiots. And whenever I have time, I'll post specific guides for monsters. Now, the biggest reason I say to specialize is because hunting a skinwalker is a whole lot different than hunting, say, a fae. Close, but different. Bigfoot are way different than a werewolf, and wendigos are way more different than a rake. The more you know, the better. But first try and hunt something easy. Not that any monster is an easy hunt. Which brings me to say, why hunters do what they do. There's quite a few private organizations that do it either for the government, religious ideals, and others who just do it cause otherwise they'd be broke. I'm one of the latter, but hey, if you're one of the few who want to do it cause someone you know got turned into a monster or eaten by one of them, by all means, go ahead. Just know what you're doing it for, cause that will help you realize when some jobs aren't worth taking. Secondly, if you're gonna be freelance, know that work is hard to find unless you pair up with an organization that gives jobs to freelancers. Trust me, go on eBay or the dark web to try and find a legit monster sighting, let alone someone willing to pay you to take care of it. is a nightmare that will make me prefer just going out to hunt werewolves during a full moon with a pencil. Funds are necessary, even if you have a more noble reason for this job. Bullets ain't cheap, let alone silver ones. I never tried to cover medical bills under rake tried to bite my foot off? Yeah, don't think so, 'cause insurance don't cover that. Which leads me to gear. Gear is part of prep. It's just as important as the knowledge of where, what, and when you'll be hunting. Trying to shoot a skinwalker with silver bullets only ends up with a demonic chuckle and chewed up face for you. White-ass tip rounds work best for most native monsters. However, not every one of them will be affected the same. Wendigos hate those rounds, but it won't put them down. While skinwalkers tend to go down if they aren't a higher tier witch doctor. Silver bullets are nice and all, but unless you have a clear shot and know where the heart is on a furry wannabe, then I suggest using bear traps and 12-gauge slugs. Whole lot cheaper than 50 cals, that's for sure. Then have a good revolver or whatever you know won't jam, and after peppering your werewolf with holes aplenty and making sure it can't move, finish it with one silver bullet. Some monsters take rituals and incantations to banish or subdue, and some don't die at all, but just get trapped in relics or places. So bringing a gun to a monster like that will end up with you possessed, or with your insides becoming your outsides. But one thing I can always say is important is a higher caliber sidearm. The lowest you should go is about 10mm or 45 ACP. Probably 45 long Colts or 357. Once again, higher the better. Shotgun never hurts to have around, especially if you're hunting bigger game, or sometimes in an urban environment, depending on the one you get. I'm partial to pump action, but having a semi-auto shotgun with a drum mag does help if you encounter a horde or something, or just a pissed off bear in the woods. Good knife. Never underestimate it, as it can be dipped into holy water, white ash, or nerve toxins. But just know, if you're down to your knife, you're probably screwed anyway. Just helps to have options. And a really good flashlight or headlamp. I meant it when I said these things crawl in the dark, as usually that's when they're most active. And you're gonna want to be able to see, so buy a quality light or two. If you have preferences, of course, you can go with those. These are just some basics I recommend. Of course, there is more that's required depending on what you're hunting, but we'll get to that eventually. Last thing you'll need is a cold heart. There's no such thing as being a human who hunts monsters. There's only monsters who hunt other monsters. Trust me, so many of you want to help that little girl in the woods crying about how she lost her mommy, or how that monster looks exactly like your little brother who died. But learn to shoot your loved ones in the face, and hope they just didn't follow you into this specific part of the woods and somehow found you. Better to live with a guilty conscience than die because you hesitated to pull the trigger. 'Cause trust me, you won't be human after a while. That's all I got for now. I'll update with specific how-to if I make it back from this frostbitten forest. The last piece of advice is try not to die. And make sure you are really good for this job. I'm tired of discovering wannabe heroes covered in snow because they weren't prepared for it.